All right.
Check.
And once again, we find ourselves face to face with another Lean Into Art cast, the show where two visual storytellers get together and take a walk, take a stroll, perambulation, and otherwise try to mentally wrestle with some difficult topics. We start with a curveball, and then we fly 1,000 feet up to take on the main topic of the show, go back down on the ground with some practical tips, tools, and stupid helpy tips to put our abstract thoughts into practice, and then we go on home with a takeaway from our art week. My name is Jersey. Who's that other guy? Who's that other guy?
This guy is Rob Stenzinger. Hey, Jersey. Jersey Drozd.
That's me.
Yeah. I like that intro, man. Like that covers like the whole. That's the flow of the show. That covers a lot of what we try to tackle here with how we like to explore creative topics that lean into art. It's fun to get nerdy, and it's fun to get practical, and each one seems to be a hollow shell of the other, a hollow shell missing some critical component. But when you combine them both, it's like a mini Voltron.
I thought you were going to turn into some kind of food analogy.
Two-part. No, I'm skipping the Reese's analogy.
I thought you were going to go to some kind of like gumbo, some kind of stew, some kind of
gumbo.
Polish dish, like.
No, gumbo has to do if when you don't want to actually throw food away, I think, and then anyway.
Oh, everybody in Louisiana, stop watching.
They're very fine. You have to. These analogies have very 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 specific applications.
So yeah, and it's one of the topics. This will actually tie into the topic today, but I just got back. Well, just got back the other day. I got back from Detroit Fan Fair, where a weekend convention in Dearborn, where I was just there to do sketches for kids. I wasn't there to sell anything. I was just there to represent Kids Read Comics and help distribute information about our event coming up next June 2013 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Everybody, kidsreadcomics.org. I'll talk about it more later. But I led a whole mess of workshops while I was there and did some free sketches for kids. By the way, first observation, going to a convention to just do sketches for kids is immensely liberating because you don't have any of that pressure of having to make a sale. Just draw what kids want you to draw and have fun doing it and talk with kids. I know I've told this story before, but it's worth repeating. But the other takeaway, and this is where we get into like topic or topic related stuff, is gosh, I haven't felt self-conscious about my presentation style or my voice in a long time, but they had me do one of the announcements over the PA for my own workshop. Robots versus monsters. Come down to the whatever the area was where I was doing the workshops, to create an implacable horde of monsters fighting, or an implacable horde of robots versus a maniacal mass of monsters in 5 minutes at the such and such area. And I thought I did a good job of it. And then another announcer comes on, and probably a nice guy, but he had this like FM radio style delivery, like, up on the 4th floor, it's speed dating. That's right, it's geek speed dating where you can meet your own slave Leia. And somebody said to me later on in the day, like, geez, George, you're doing a great job with the announcements all day today, by the way. And I was like, that's not me. I don't think I sound like that.
The misplaced compliment. That's funny.
Because I was listening to him going, gosh, that guy's really hamming it up. Is that how I sound? Really? No. But anyway, so perhaps I need to reinvestigate my vocal stylings, go to a diction coach or something. Speech therapist. I don't know.
There's jobs where you can do that all day. I remember back in the day when I worked customer service at a TJ Maxx, I got to rock the microphone asking for different help from different departments at different points throughout the day. And I found that rather fun. Anyway, there's always drive-through as well.
Welcome to Burger King.
Exactly.
Can I take your order?
Yep.
Oh, I never thought I'd be that guy. Oh, that's a rude awakening. So, hey, you know what? Keeping this actually on task, as they like to say in some classrooms, We got curveball. We got curveball. We always start with a curveball where we throw each other a difficult question and watch the other guy go, I don't know, and try to wrestle with it. Mental warm-up exercise before we kick into the topic of the episode. So, Rob, I've got the curveball this week. I'm winding up. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I know I sort of pre-warmed you up for this by doing a few soft curveballs at you before we started recording, but I'm going to twist it up a little bit. Artists are a very funny lot in that a lot of us look back on our old work and go, oh, that's rubbish, that's crap, that's garbage, I hate it, I can't stand to look at it. As soon as I finish a project, I just want to burn it, move on to the next project, which sounds healthy, right? Because it means you're always going on to the next thing. You're ever hunting for the better experience, the better execution. You're always striving for more. But you know what that says to me sometimes? It also suggests that they are embarrassed about what they did. Now, I don't think anybody should dwell too much on the past, but it does pain me sometimes when I see talented artists, looking back on their work, which isn't that bad. Sometimes it's really great. Often, in the case of talented artists, it's really great stuff, but they just can't stand to look at it. And it's a story we like to tell for some reason. But it got me to thinking, is there ever a reason we should be embarrassed or ashamed of a project that we have done or are doing? I don't want anybody to think that actually, I can't help it if anybody thinks this. I mean, I can totally see somebody coming along and saying, like, oh, Jersey's that guy who says that everybody just, hug and share a secret. But, don't feel bad, even if you have a reason to feel bad. But you know what? I mean, is there a time when we should feel bad about something that we're doing?
Let's see. So you're working on a project. And so let's say you go out to dinner with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, what you been up to?" And you're like, "Well, yeah, I was working on this one thing, but yeah, I got this new client, and what you up to anyway?" Enough about me. Is it that right. Kind of thing where you're not feeling quite comfortable?
You could put it that way too. Yes, you've just helped it encompass the entire question.
Well, let's see. I mean, another motivation to not be, so inverting this, like, so when would you want to talk about a project? It's when you're proud of it, probably. When it represents something that's core to what you believe in, and you're executing at a skill level that feels like you are living up to some standard you set for yourself, right? Perhaps. Like, these might be attributes of like why you would feel the opposite. So I would think that if any of these ingredients were missing, I think there's a greater chance where you may want to not share. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think.
That's actually, Rob, I just want to stop you there. That's a really good thinking exercise, is invert the proposition, right? Should I feel ashamed of this? Well, what would it take to make you feel proud of it? When have you ever been proud of a project, and what were the things that made you proud of the project? What made it into a project that you wanted to tell everybody about? And you're under NDA, and you're just champing at the bit to tell everybody that you're doing this thing, right?
Yeah, those are painful. It's fun. It's awesome to get those projects, but those NDAs, a necessary of the business. But been in that situation, still am in that situation. Can't talk about certain projects still. So, oh well.
No, but even at the same time, it's like I think about a couple years back, I did some work on the Marvel Superhero Squad trading cards that went along with the video game. Now, at the time, and to this day, I was very excited about that project because it fulfilled a childhood ambition of mine. Like I said these words, someday I will draw Spider-Man for money. I got to do that, without actually having to draw a Spider-Man comic. But then at the same time, there was that little voice that was saying, yeah, but you're only doing the trading cards for a video game. You're not really working for Marvel. You don't really get that prestige. Now, I worked it all out so that I'm fine. I can look in the mirror every day, But the fact that voice popped up scares me. You know what I mean? It scared me that, who am I worried about in this predicament here, right? You think you grow out of that.
do you do you win? Because I mean, for me, not to be blasé about it, I think that is a very challenging and personal thing as far as having a negative expressing internal voice. That I mean, it can be handy as far as making better choices and refining. Refining skills and sort of like self-critique. It can be like super handy to have that kind of voice, but it also can be like ridiculously distracting and destructive and all that. And yeah, I mean, all I've been able to do is to ignore it better. That's about it.
So what you're telling me, Rob, is that we never ever achieve that calm, completed Mr. Miyagi persona.
I would say it's about that's like a snapshot in time. Oh. I've certainly felt that. I've felt that kind of peace, but if something always will shake me out of it, yeah. and that's all right too. But it's not like a permanent state. If you felt that satisfied all the time, what would you then do?
Right, you're talking like a Buddhist now, actually, right? That's exactly the answer a Buddhist would give you, is that nirvana isn't this permanent condition that you exist in, but it's a thing you can experience when you condition yourself, and you can condition yourself to experience it more often, or experience it more readily, or prepare yourself to be surprised by it. Is that a bad thing, talking about nirvana? I don't know.
No, I don't think it's bad at all. I think there I have the whole thing where I've got a bunch of Joseph Campbell stuff on my my iPod, on my iPhone, and throughout the day when I'm working on things, I'll have, if I put on my iPod on full random, it'll go straight from Kill Switch Engage to Joseph Campbell.
Talking about the four functions of mythology or something.
Exactly, and he'll be talking about nirvana and whatnot. And so it's very interesting philosophical explorations. Yeah, I find those useful.
His lectures are great. His lectures are so good. Don't just limit yourself to the Bill Moyers interview, because it's not that great once you actually dig into the lectures.
Yeah. So okay. So as far as the embarrassed, should you feel embarrassed? I have a tough time framing things in that fashion. That would mean like there's a universal, like I need to do a certain thing as far as the should. Do I? Yeah, a lot, and I just ignore it as best as I can, because pretty much every single thing I've ever done and then shared, I've been able to, also yell at myself about it. So then I just don't, and I say there's better stuff to do with my time that I can. That I can gain from this past experience and to get ready for the next ones. So, in that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I feel satisfied by that answer. However,
yeah.
I don't think that any of the listeners or leaners or video watchers should necessarily feel satisfied by that answer. So if you have an answer that you want to contribute to this discussion, dear leaner, you can send us an MP3 or just fire off an email to leanintoart@gmail.com, and we'll take it, we'll crunch on it, and we might put it on the air like we did last episode. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback, or if you've got your own curveball that you want to throw at us, some kind of difficult to answer question, some kind of question without an easy answer, pitch it at us. Just use the subject line curveball at leanintoart@gmail.com. Send an MP3 or an email. And we'll talk, or like a Dropbox link or something like that, and we'll be glad to listen to it. So, are you ready to talk topic, Rob?
I'm so ready to talk topic.
Well, then I guess
especially because I get to hear some of this.
That's right, everybody. It's topic. Oh God, no.
I want to go to your workshop now. You're announcing your workshop, right?
USOB. Yes, we got main topic now. So let me give you a little backstory on this topic, where this one came from. So, like I said at the top of this episode, I was at Detroit Fan Fair recently, and I talked to a bunch of artists while I was there. It was when I wasn't doing sketches for kids or leading workshops, I tried to get up from behind the table, and go, say hi to some of the local cartoonists that I know. And, for whatever reason, it seemed to be a common topic amongst these people I was talking with about this whole notion. Well, and actually, I know why we were talking about this. We were at a convention, and so one of the hot topics was getting yourself out there, being engaging behind the table, being being a memorable personality, or the whole networking thing, which we talked about a lot on the show. But there was a spin that sort of happened, or not a spin, but an angle into this particular topic that happened while I was at Detroit Fan Fair, and it happened more than once, which was surprising to me. And it maybe me being the common denominator, maybe it was me driving things in this direction, but it seemed like I was talking with a lot of people about this whole idea of being an entertaining person as well as an entertaining cartoonist or visual storyteller. And I could invoke the name of Ryan Estrada once again. That's just like talking about Karate Kid and Ryan Estrada. Those are the two things you got to do in every Lena Tired episode. But I mentioned, I thought of things that he said in the past, which has led me to this drum that I've been beating lately, that we go into the visual arts often because that's the way we can best express ourselves. And we get, I'll admit to it myself that it was very compelling, this idea of locking myself up in a studio and not interacting with the world except through my art. But then I think about, if we accept the premise that whether you are published or self-published nowadays, part of the puzzle is going out and interacting with your audience or with your peers in order to spread awareness of your work, then that brings up a challenge that we have to become more engaging in the world around us. And I was also reminded of, and Rob, stop me if I've told this story before, but I was listening to the WTF podcast. This is a while back, with Mark Maron, and I'll link to it in the show notes. Guy was a stand-up comedian. His career was kind of going okay, but not going great. And then he decided to start doing a podcast where he talked with other comedians, and his career started taking off again in a kind of a new way. And now he's doing more gigs, and he's got this successful podcast, which is supporting him from all the advertising and everything. And what makes the show so successful? Well, part of it is his hosting style, and there's like this bit at the top of it. You've listened to it, right, Rob, or no?
I really got to. I am so adding it. After we stop recording, I'm adding this to my podcast stream.
Well, it's not for everybody, but it is immensely popular. And one of the things that he does at the top of every episode is he has like this sort of opening monologue, which is not structured. It's like stream of consciousness. Here's what happened to me this week. It's like takeaway at the top of the episode. And sometimes it's just like him stressing out about his cat. It's not anything where it's like constructed jokes. It's more like, here I am, I'm just talking about my cat got out of the house and it was lost for 3 days. My girlfriend's freaking out and I'm freaking out. And hey, here's an ad. And then he does like an ad for sex toys, But anyway, I thought, what is it that makes this show so good? And he's talking to stand-up comedians. Now, stand-up comedians are trained in being funny, engaging individuals. They have shtick, bits, observations they share on stage. They're trained to look for what's funny and what's relatable and how to construct that into something that's worth listening to. And so even when these guys are just talking about their lives, they're really engaging and funny, and it makes for terrific listening, even if it isn't pure stand-up comedy, even if it's just them talking about their lives or talking about the history of comedy. It's always really good, which led me to this kind of exclamation that happened one day when I was listening to it, where I said, why aren't we cartoonists like this? Why is it so hard for us to get out from behind the desk and be engaging and funny and interesting? We could do it on paper just fine. What is it that stops us from doing that? And then I remembered you. And I remembered you did this workshop, which is now on sale, part of the Season of Creative Challenges collection at leanintoart.com/workshops, called Storytelling to Make Your Comics UI Awesome, where you very astutely pointed out that these skills you have as a visual storyteller are the same skills you use as a UI UX designer. And I thought, well, is it applicable to being an engaging and interesting person online, in person, and so on? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yes, it is. So with every new technology that comes out, the argument gets leveled that there's no excuses anymore. If you want to create, you have every tool at your disposal to create. It's never been easier. And next year, it's going to be even easier yet. And next year after that, it's going to be even easier yet until that asteroid hits us or whatever. And then all of the electricity goes away and we become a post gasoline society, and we start trading in seeds or something like that. But for now, it's never been easier, and so the only excuse is that you're stopping yourself. And I thought it would be worthwhile to not necessarily talk about how to be engaging online in five easy steps. Do lots of posts and comment a lot, and plus one other people's posts. None of that kind of nonsense, but really focus on what is it that we do as storytellers that should make it very easy for us to put ourselves out there, as it were. Did I frame that up at all?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so that's. I mean, and honestly, you told a story while you framed it up, which encapsulates it. I mean, so essentially, there's storytelling seems like it has some legs as far as being a way to share ideas, and also not just share ideas, but to entertain. Also, hey, maybe to help be a model in social interactions as well, right? Maybe it lives up to that. And it's interesting, you mentioned, I really am curious about the WTF podcast. I mean, there's part of me that I have deep respect for stand-up comedians because of just the challenging, they're doing storytelling live. Like every joke is essentially two stories woven together, and they jump tracks to from one story to the next in a delightful, surprising way when it has some kind of little hook that allows them to jump tracks. Where I would bet it's both like a serious and depressing and interesting podcast, could be borderline boring, and then have crazy pee your pants moments all of a sudden thrown in there.
That's a very apt description of the show.
And that just I'm just super curious because I don't know a lot of stand-up comedians, but like just with my little bit of reading on the topic, it seems like that's kind of it's a common mindset where instead of applying that to social situations, they're using that for their joke telling craft, where again every joke is a story. And so what's a story? It's a flow of causality with some kind of actors in some kind of situation. And instead of just having causality be like a recipe of guess what happens when you get 2 eggs and a cup of milk and some sugar and some flour, and then you put them together in this order, and then you put it in the oven, and then you take it out and there's a cake. That was not surprising or interesting.
Right. But
if you choose to, you can try to find, and it's interesting anyway. I'm sorry, you got me fired up, Jersey.
Good. That's the whole idea.
Yeah. Anyway, so in other words, yes.
But see, this is part of it right there. Like what you just did too is expressing your enthusiasm and excitement about the idea, and even if you don't have. And I'm not saying this about what you just said, but I'm saying even if you're the person who doesn't have a fully formed thesis on the matter, being able to say, yes, let's wrestle with this right now. That is being engaging too, right?
Yeah, I mean, giving it a good shot and using whatever words you have, I think can go a long way as well. I think for good reason. I was once in a band called Word Salad.
What?
Word Salad.
Really?
Yeah. You ever hear of Word Salad?
No. What is that?
And it's banana, cupcake, shoestring, apple, computer.
Seriously? Like you just throw words?
Yeah, just words. And it's partial. It's actually a I think it's a spectrum disorder. But no. So once I got older, I actually got more serious about it. I thought I probably shouldn't use that so flippantly. But yeah, it's a wild concept though. It's pretty, just anyway.
Wow.
Anyway.
I'm finally seeing the comments in the comment thread. It got frozen up there for a minute there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Last one I saw was the one referencing perhaps a Lean Into Art related drinking game.
Yeah, that's Shadow Wingtronics in there saying that, and probably because I mentioned the WTF podcast. He can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and or Mr. Miyagi and or Eric Ryan
or
Estrada.
Ryan Estrada. We're collecting them. We're trying to form some of our own memes so we can make some T-shirts and then get you guys to spend some money on us. I was trying to find a better way to say that. So okay, going to our talking points on this. So I think we got to my point one. I want to get to a caveat on this. I want to acknowledge something, that there's going to be a but in the audience on this, whether live or after the fact. And I say, you know what, Jers, not everybody wants to engage with the outside world. Some people are introverts after all, and you know what? I get that. I totally get that. The world don't move to the beat of just one drum, right? Yeah. And I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm not trying to say, well, if you're an introvert, fix yourself, go get a therapist or anything like that. But I would submit that even an introvert probably craves some kind of interaction with their work if they make something. I think, and we've said this before, the act of making something is itself an admission that you want some kind of interaction if you share it in any kind of capacity, right? Unless, going back to something you said in the past, sand art. If you make sand art, then yeah, you're just making it for the sheer experience of making something, which is cool too. But if you are making it and if you're putting it into some kind of content management system, odds are you want some kind of interaction. And even if you are an introvert, I would submit that your storytelling skills can assist you in a way that is comfortable to you without having to go out and be an obnoxious, hey, it's me kind of person, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously this can go. Well, let's see. I would say some of my early attempts in trying to figure out how do I let people know that I'm in business to do a certain thing, right? Would have, I think they oscillated very from extremes of like being silently handing a business card to being over exuberant, never getting to a point, and then forgetting to hand a business card, to then the third option, which would be so when are you going to pay me? When are you going to pay me? Kind of thing. And wait, did you say yes to doing this thing that I can do for you? Or, and just really mismanaging a sales process on the other end. Yeah, a lot of extremes. And just from just seeing other examples and giving a bad attempt at pulling it off myself. But it's because, okay, just to disclose, I don't know if it was obvious or not from whatever 60 episodes of the Lean Into Artcast, I actually consider myself an introvert. I'm habitually I'll just really briefly. I mean, when I was turning the corner on being less of an introvert, it had to do with early in my career when I was working on software teams and just having ideas that I thought would really contribute to the big picture, but they would go nowhere if I didn't somehow advocate and convince, and all of a sudden I found myself needing to present and convince people about doing something. And that would then somehow affect the destiny of some software I was working on. And I thought, I mean, and it was either do that or shut up and build something you don't like. That's how I looked at it. That was my choice. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start working on this. Anyway. Yeah. So introverts have options. I guess that's my, should you choose to, go that route, you're like, yeah, I want someone to know about the thing I made.
Yeah.
There's options.
It's funny that you tell this story about like sort of coming to it as a necessity. I mean, that is a really, really powerful way to learn new skills, right? That's why I learned how to ink, was because I had self-defined myself as a penciler. I'm a penciler. I understand how to break things down and set up shots and work out page compositions. But man, that whole line value thing, that's confusing to me. I just don't want to do it. I'm a penciler. I'm going to define myself as such. Therefore, I need an inker. And then I got royally screwed over by an inker one time. And I said, this won't do. So I'm not going to be at somebody else's mercy like this again. So I better learn this skill. So if I do work with an inker, it's because I want to, not because I have to. You know what I mean?
And that's so nuts. Just looking at your current art output and whatnot, and the amount of intent and skill that you put into your line work, where that's the current place you're at on your journey, and starting out as saying, "Nah, I don't do that." That's amazing. As far just that's wow, pretty cool. As,
Well, I will graciously accept that compliment.
Good.
Thank you.
It's yeah.
So let's get to some of the things. Like whenever I talk about this topic with people, I always come up against the same things. And man, oh man, I had some of this stuff saved up for Thunder Punch Daily. I hope I don't empty my clip on this because I'd like to get back to doing that show again. Well, that's all well and good for you, Jersey, because you know what? It looks absolutely effortless when you get up in front of a crowd and start talking. You have that rapid fire delivery of words that makes you sound smarter than you really are, or at least gives a kind of a funny punchy rhythm to something so that your jokes come off as slightly more humorous than they actually are. You make it look easy, so you know that's fine for you, but you know it's hard for me to get up in front of people. Yeah.
I'm just picturing. So maybe one of our strategies could be you just need to develop a quirky affectation.
Yeah.
And perhaps a tagline. So like, like Bart Simpson, I didn't do it, or
Yeah, that's right. Just think of any Simpsons character; they all have it. Krusty
Sure.
the Clown has, right?
Exactly. Anyway.
But yeah. So what's our answer to that? It's all well and good. But I'm not good at this thing.
I think there's a lot of ways where we can categorize it as an other, where it's not me, it's not the thing that I need to do, it's not a thing that I want to do or I'm naturally good at or what have you, so it's an other, and therefore it's someone else's problem, right? In a way. With that strategy, to me, that's what that defines. And reflecting back on my own experience, when I would be like, well, okay, someone else deals with that. Yeah, I don't come up with that. All of a sudden, well, wait a minute, I want to affect it. Now what?
Right. And my other answer to that is that, well, you didn't let this stop you from trying out visual storytelling. So why? I mean, you're expressing yourself that way. So what's so different about this, except the immediacy of a crowd, right? Or the people.
Oh yeah, exactly. The medium may be different, but you've gone through this same set of thresholds as you were building up expertise and becoming a storyteller.
Right. I got a few more on my list here of things that I've heard from people before. Well, what if I get booed? What if people don't like what I have to say? What if I fall flat on my face in front of a crowd of people?
Well, likely some of those things will happen, but then what if they do happen?
What if I go outside today and I get robbed? What if I turn the doorknob and I get some germs in my hand? What if I'm driving the car and I get a flat? What if I get fired? What if I get some groceries and I get them home and the ice cream melted?
One way to look at this is to think about think of it as a scenario of, okay, what I've got kind of a geeky software way to handle this, like kind of a software design approach, where the outcome you want is to be able to maybe you're thinking about doing some microphone work, announcing the workshops at a local conference, or maybe you're thinking about putting on one of those workshops or what have you. But you're like, oh boy, I've never done that thing, and that thing sounds so daunting that it makes the rest of the benefit unappetizing. And you've got all these different risks that you're throwing out there. Well, why not? Okay, great. Make a laundry list of those risks. How likely are any of them to happen? And or what have you done already, where I would bet many things on that laundry list you've probably already managed, and it's not actually much of a risk anymore. Like if, for instance, what if I don't have anything to say? well, you know how to tell a story. You can come up with something to say, probably.
Yeah, and we'll get to that when we hit the ground with some
Yeah.
ways to think about that. But I've
Hmm.
got another question for you, Rob. Uh, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to be one of those spammy guys who gets inserts himself into some kind of conversation and irritates everybody. What if nobody wants to read the stuff that I'm saying on these different social things? Or what if I'm at a party and I inject myself into the conversation and I don't want look, I don't want to be that guy. Okay, Rob. So I'd rather just opt out and watch if it's all the same.
Yeah. Honestly, I understand. It's way it feels so much safer to stand on the side and to see the things happen, and it even can feel like, um well, heck, I mean, I'll think back to the Up Fair back in November of 2010, and so here I am meeting, well, you for the first time, and and a bunch of other people that I'd been listening to the Art and Story podcast, and um, it's funny. I actually got to tell I don't know if I told this story already on the Lean Into Art cast, where I was actually nervous to meet Krishna at Webcomics Weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well. I mean, I'm embarrassed to even say that, but so what? It's true, right? So it, but it doesn't have to stop there, right? I mean, so what? So maybe you have the first attempt. That's that's the anti-lesson, that you come up with better strategies for next time, right? You probably figure out, like, oh, okay, could you say, hey, I'm really interested in what you do, and I was wondering about this thing that I was thinking about trying to help out with, or I was wondering if you could answer a question I have, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
But
Sorry, I'm going
Rob,
into the practical things.
better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. And when you make that mistake, it's over. It's over. You don't ever get another chance at that, and you will be thought a fool forever and ever and ever.
Better to make a fool of yourself and see how the people around you connect with you or run away, and then you know who's worth following up with.
Spoken with the hacker's ethos. Get in there, do whatever job you can of it, and then iterate upon that. Right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so if someone's pointing and laughing, probably don't want to follow up with them. you know, where if someone is like,
Or
yeah,
it's time to reassess what you said and did to figure out where.
oh yeah, that's true. Obviously, thinking it's worth reflecting on it from all sorts of angles. Beyond just self. I don't know,
Yeah.
self hand wringing and stuff.
So, and the other thing that I think that we tend to forget is, you know what? Nobody has to talk to you. Nobody has to follow you on these places. We're all grown-ups here. And if somebody, this is Rob, I'm speaking from a sense of frustration myself, because I struggle with this all the freaking time, as I know Rob does, because we've had this discussion both on and offline. It's you get so worried about what's the thing I'm supposed to share and where and when. I don't want to be that guy. And the truth of the matter is, if somebody doesn't like it, they can unfollow me, and I'm not even paying attention to that. I posted a picture on my Instagram recently about like how irritated I get sometimes with these whole notions of things like clout, because I'll admit it, I downloaded the Cloud app for my iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
and I just installed it, looked at it once or twice, and then forgot it was even there, and then I forgot I left notifications on because I didn't set anything on it. I just like sort of like logged in and let it go, and then forgot about it, and all of a sudden I get this notification like, "Hey, your Clout score dropped. You better do something about this, bro." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, really? I got to think about this kind of thing? Really? That's what you're going to make me do? You're going to make me constantly measure myself compared to everybody else and who am I influencing, who's influencing me?" I get the use of it in certain situations, but for the most part, it's a reminder that says, "Hey, don't have too much fun with this stuff. Don't express yourself in a natural way. Carefully evaluate, construct." Oh, did we lose Rob? We lost Rob. See, I got so mad I kicked him out, everybody. He'll call back in a second. But yeah, I'll continue with this little tirade while we wait for Rob to come back. Is that nobody is being forced to pay attention to you, and yeah, you're gonna constantly reassess and reevaluate the way you engage in order to see what kind of reactions you get if you're after people following along and enjoying what you do. But if you mess up or if you come off as spammy one day, then if the people don't like it, they can unfollow you and nobody gets hurt, right? It happens in a very private way. It said that Rob joined the Hangout again, but I'm not seeing him. This could be an opportunity for you guys to fire off questions in the chat and I could respond to them. And I can pull up my phone to see if I can text old Rob. Or not. So, but yeah, I had some other counterpoints that get thrown back at me. And this is one that I'm guilty of myself, actually, is I want people to know me for my work, not myself. And, oh, there he is. There's Rob.
Hey.
I was carrying the torch while you were away.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, my Hangout crashed. Sorry about that.
No big. When you gotta go, you gotta go. So I finished my rant. So I was going into I want people to know me for my work, not myself. To which my response would be fair enough, but then you'd better do some awesome work. There are people out there who have successfully leveraged themselves just on their work alone, but in those cases, they tend to do really, really awesome stuff. So.
Okay, so let's see. Did you hit the I am a rock?
No, I didn't hit that one.
Island.
I put that in the notes, but I was being kind of facetious. You can hit it if you want to.
All right. Let's see. I mean, it's a little bit how you framed up the situation sort of dodges this one. I just it exemplifies to me having some kind of really strong fear about drawing attention to your work, yet you're doing some kind of attempt to share it, yet not investing in it enough to make it successful. Which reminds me of some past points we've made on the Lean Into Artcast that providing your skills and making trade with it involves a more complex ecosystem than just your skill alone in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Because your skill alone in a vacuum, chances are, isn't exactly related to how someone else runs their business and how they're helping their customers. So chances are there's some kind of extra stuff to do related to, well, making them aware of what you do and however they want what you made packaged and set up to work with what they're building or doing, whether that's websites or t-shirts or whatever. It probably involves something beyond what you would strictly say, yeah, that's my job. I always, illustrate things or I tell stories.
Yeah, it's funny. I run into more and more people nowadays who, part of this is 21st century economics, but also I wonder if this isn't something more sinister in psychology nowadays, that people are having a harder time defining what it is that they do. I'm a mechanic. Can't say that unless you have some kind of mechanic certification. I am a butcher. Oh, I don't have my butcher certification. Now, some jobs you do need that, obviously. But I'm speaking about local instances where I talk to people and I'm like, so, what do you do? And like, well, I'm kind of a little bit of this. Courage of your convictions, dude. Say what you are. And what you're speaking to put it bluntly, is courage of your convictions about the thing that you're engaging with creatively, right? I'm a cartoonist, damn it. I make this comic, and I spend a lot of time on it. You're going to spend 8 to 20 to 30 hours a week on something and say, no, please, let's not talk about it because it's not very good after all. Wow.
Yeah, and it's acknowledging, too, that having that courage to realize that there's more to it as well, right? So, I agree. It's courage of your convictions. It's not just willing to dedicate yourself to hone your craft and release and to ship something, but it's in that shipping of it to bring it to the audience that you're trying to delight, surprise, horrify, whatever, educate with the thing you made. The bringing it to them is another. It's another step where that's one way to look at that. You're not an island. None of us are, and we have to do extra stuff to get our stuff to one another. For instance, lean into art workshops. We're doing this podcast, right? I mean, there's
Everybody,
more to it.
don't listen to this show anymore because it's not very good, and we only spend hours a week working on it, and work on making workshops so that you might want to look at it. It'd be nice if you looked at them, but you don't have to look at them.
Yeah, that. You just said what I was thinking, Jersey.
What if you do multiple projects that you like, is what Shadow Wingtronics is asking in the chat. Well, then you put slashes on it. I mean, my title that I've given myself, that I gave myself, nobody gave it to me, was cartoonist and teaching artist. I am Jersey Joe's cartoonist and teaching artist.
That is an awesome title too, by the way, which I was going with titles that had some flexibility to them as well. But before that, I saw your cartoonist and teaching artist, and it gave me the urge to find what is that real core essence thing, and I ended up coming up with interactive storyteller, and it was huge as far as helping me in various conversations, connecting with potential clients and all that kind of stuff. So while a title isn't exactly inherently meaningful, and no institution, because here's another angle to take that I'm avoiding a rant on, but I'm stepping around delicately regarding.
Rob, we could turn this into a two-parter. I am prepared because we got a lot of notes on this one.
Institutions are, you can choose to put a lot of weight and have that be an exclusive deliverer of solutions and dictator of what you feel are achievable and worthy goals, or you can ignore them. You could be completely punk rock ethic and ignore the institutions, or you could shop from both stores, right? Whichever. But and so I'm actually trying. I'm skirting the institution thing, but you do run into a lot of circles where people have a very strict definition and a curator for that definition saying, well, so and so doesn't give you the thing that acknowledges that you're a fill in the blank.
You said curate.
I did.
That's an even deadlier word to throw into this whole mix. You're just like pouring acid into the mixing pot of poison.
Sometimes poison is the cure.
Because curate is one of those words where people are like, oh, it just lost all its meaning. Cartooning has lost its meaning because people with stick figures are making a living making comics.
They are visual storytellers, and some of them are proud to share what they're working on. I'm actually this is me bringing it back, Jersey.
Okay.
Some of them are proud to do that, and others are working on it. One thing that I think when you're working on it, that this is one of my last points for this section of the show before we get into the practical. I think it has to do with inherently, you're working on your stories. What are some of the kind of traits that are involved when you're describing different worldviews that are embodied in your characters, Jersey? What are some kind of thought exercises and effects of those?
Are you referring by any chance to the session we did in the Creative Topics Variety Pack, where I did that exercise where we borrow from our own life with the associations we make when I start evoking names or characters from your life? Your best friend in fourth grade, a favorite teacher, a loathed teacher, your first girlfriend, your first heartbreak, and leveraging those emotions that get associated with those kinds of things to give you fuel for your stories. Is that what you're driving at? Well,
yeah. Okay. So I'm stepping back from the sharing and the reaching out of your stories to the if you apply that thinking to both making your stories and into then the sharing of them, I think there's this transformative aspect to it, and I really don't know how to put it other than being a creative person, making things and sharing things is inherently honestly, it's a very in a way it's a self-directed learning method, and it will affect you. When and I don't know. What do you got, Jersey? You look excited.
Just today, I was talking with Dan Michigan on the phone about a project that we're working on, and we accidentally tripped across a really, really nice bit of storytelling and it started with Dan sending something to me by email, asking me to read it, said, I'll call you tomorrow, let's discuss it. I looked it over, got on the phone with him, and I said, this is great, except I'm a little unclear on this one part. This one part here is a little fuzzy to me. He's like, well, what's fuzzy about it? Well, are you saying A or are you saying B? Because if you say A, it means this, and if you're saying B, it means that. He's like, I didn't even think about that. That's a good catch. Let's suss it out. And so we start talking it out. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of partial to B unless we can find a C in here someplace. And we talk it out. And what we landed on was a better C than what A or B could possibly have been. And it referred to something that we had already pre-built into the story. It like sort of reflected and bounced off an earlier thematic element. And Dan said to me, he's like, this looks like we knew what we were doing. He's like, it's going to look like we planned it all along. And I said, and that's what we're going to tell everybody, is that we planned it all along. But the gist of the story, the point of this story is that we didn't know what we were doing. We were discovering our way to it and learning how to do it, even though we've both been doing it. And he's been doing it way longer than me. So, yeah, it is a self-discovery. It is a self-directed learning process. And, yeah, if you are going to work on something as laborious as a graphic novel, you are not going to come out the same person, right?
And actually, if you're going to tackle this other thing, so if you put in the effort to finish or get far enough with creating your thing where you're starting to you're sharing it, and you're having if you're facing difficulties in that area, I think it's another way to look at how storytelling gives you a way to tackle that, and also your experience and the sort of the grit and the qualities and awareness that you build for telling stories can help you tackle that next task as far as spreading awareness of it and sharing it, being engaging when you're meeting with your local group of artists.
Yeah, whether you're at shows or whether you're trying to do outreach like workshops or going to local bookstores to try to get them to pick up your books. So yeah. Fully agree, Rob. Is it time to hit the ground?
I think it's totally time.
Okay, so with that, I've got 3 benefits that come out of doing this stuff, and then we're going to share some practical expertise. So let's see, I need something that sounds heavy, something that sounds like it's lowering us, bringing us back down out of the stratosphere. And what's heavier? And as I try to work with her, big lumpy potato-looking things slowly descending on Earth. Time to get to the ground and talk about some practical applications of these things. We have talked at length about the sort of abstract theoretical ideas behind these kinds of things. So, we covered the why. Let's get to the how. Benefits. Why do this stuff? Real quick, just to summarize. I'm going to blast through these, Rob, and this doesn't require any comment from you, and then we'll dive into the actual practical applications. Benefit 1, just to summarize, you become a better observer. You gather characters for your stories. You find new ideas and points of view for your themes. I've told the story in the past many times about the Sam and Jim Go to Hollywood podcast where 2 guys wanted to be Hollywood writers, but first they opened up a restaurant and ran a restaurant for several years. Why? Because they said, if we want to be good writers, we got to collect a lot of characters. We'll meet a lot of characters if we run some kind of public establishment. Benefit 2, you become more connected in your field. You have a wider network of peers to help and be helped by. See, give and take, give and take. You feel more connected, right? So last week we did a response to Brian Taylor of BrianHaroldTaylor.com. He sent us an email, which we responded to on the air, and he responded to us, and I won't read the whole response. It's just there was a line in there where he says, I think my feeling of burnt out was mostly due to working on such a huge, undefined project in near solitude without any feedback for nearly 3 years. So, in other words, connectedness has an effect on productivity for many of us. There's a benefit there. Benefit 3, confidence. when we step out and we don't fall on our faces, when we actually do a good job of something, and especially in an environment where there's some kind of immediate feedback loop of people applauding or people responding positively, it makes us feel more self-assured that we can do things. The kid did a thing. The kid can do a thing. And that helps us get back to the art desk a little bit more readily. We don't have such a cloud of self-doubt to fight through. So, on the ground, Rob.
Do we have an even darker, deeper set of music to go? Anyway.
The kid had his coffee today.
All right. Okay. So let's see. Well, obviously, we want to share some kind of helpful techniques. Like if you're like me, like and we're having a podcast, and like when I'm chatting with Jersey anytime, and I think of like, oh wait, I want to do that thing. This is that section where like if you have your Moleskine, if you have your whatever note cards, you want to scribble furiously. That's what we're hoping to accomplish here. And
right.
Okay, so telling a story. You know how to do it. You've been creating stories. Why not tackle those connections with when you're going to a local meeting of comic artists, a drink and draw or something? Why not tackle it as a story? And you don't have to take it like some kind of Seinfeld sitcom character where you're ready to come back and you've got all the if-thens mapped out, because of course, well, you can get meta and talk about that as a story example, but if you want that to really work out in human interactions, it's going to go a little bit rough.
Right. What was that expression that you often use? Is that no plan survives contact with the ground? Is that how it goes?
The Art of War one is, I think, no plan survives contact with the enemy or whatnot. But
yeah,
and I think Jersey, you captured a whole bunch of sort
you
of
want me to kick? Yeah,
cool
I've got one right here.
Framing exercises, right? Where, dude, you'd never believe what happened to me today when I sat down, tried to do some drawing with my Nexus One tablet, and I totally forgot to charge it. It sucks. And so but what's cool is that gave me a chance to, and actually I'm totally making this up off the cuff, but and so by sharing something that is just, it may seem mundane or silly. It's not like I took 10 minutes to describe how I forgot to charge my thing I wanted to use, right? But you know what? It's human. It's approachable. You're just trying to connect with other people. Anyway, I think that's a nice way to do it.
Yeah. This actually, I was thinking about this because this is something I use in my comics workshop classes to show people that they can tell a visual story whenever, especially when I teach adult classes, they come back to me like, well, I just don't have anything to write about. And I'm like, you're an adult. A lot of stuff has happened to you at this point in your life. You've got something to say in there. Mm-hmm. But to get them actually get the ball rolling with them. And I will take a point of pride out of the fact that this particular thinking exercise made it into a book that Janie Ho of chickengirldesign.com, that she actually, a comic she drew, I was in it saying this very thing to her. And she cited it as being a very helpful thing. She drew me as a bear, by the way, and I was much handsomer in her book than in real life. But I said to her, it's like, when I said to the group that she was in, I said, all telling a story is when you go up to a friend and say, you're never going to believe what happened to me today. So there I was. There's the previous premise, right? Mm-hmm. So there I was before the thing happened. And then this happened, which is an unexpected thing occurs, suggesting two or more possibilities, right? So there I was walking the streets when I see a baby alligator on the ground, right? And these outcomes could go either way, right? And mm-hmm. setting an expectation. Oh, here it comes. But then this happened, right? Then something totally weird happened. And then the bus pulled up and there was a guy who was really hairy and smelled kind of like pee. And he said this to me. And then, so at the end of my story, I guess I learned, so here's the takeaway. I guess I learned this from the story.
And I would assume he said, you found my pet alligator and here's $100, right?
Yeah, see, and then gives me $100, which deflates or deflects my expectations about the guy who gets off the bus who's really hairy and smells like feet. So, So yeah, that's telling a story in like a very, very nuts and bolts, basic, simplified, possibly even simplistic way of telling a story. But it gives you the general idea of when you got something that says you're never going to believe it happened to me. That is a different thing than going up to somebody and saying, well, anybody who's ever seen the Kids in the Hall skit, Rob, did you ever watch Kids in the Hall?
A little bit. I can do the squishy thing.
Okay, yeah, crushing your head. Ryan Estrada just got here. He says, I just got here. The third comment down is simply Estrada.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hey, Ryan. We were summoning you. It's like Beetlejuice. We just say Estrada.
That's awesome.
But anyway,
Kids in the Hall.
Kids in the Hall. So there's a character played by Bruce McCullough called Gavin, where he's this weird little kid who comes over to people's houses and just says completely non sequitur things like, I eat books for money, these dogs smoke, So that's not a good way of telling a story, and we've all met that guy at a Comic-Con or in any other kind of mixed company.
I've got a different angle on this advice. So what you're describing is sort of having a I love a self-survey approach in general. So it's almost like having a framework for tackling a story. This is a very verbal one, right? So could this be done visually? Like, what if you thought of, you're going to write an email to someone who you want to connect with locally, or you're going to a local convention. And what if you wanted to say this? What if you wanted to sum it up in like 3 panels? How many panels does it take, Jersey, is what I'm saying. You're going to make it into
That's a good way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it, Rob, is, when we think about these things, we think visually, right? And so when you say these guys smoke, that's the end of your story. You got a 1-panel gag, and it's not even, it's inviting explanation. Like, why are you telling me this? Whereas, thinking about it visually and thinking about, that's part of storytelling too, is describing how something, man, I talk about this in my comics workshops all the time when I'm teaching kids, and I'm saying, like, how does this sound? How does this feel? Make me hear the sound, man. Use shape, size, line, and color to make me hear what's going on in this sequence here. What does it smell like in that kitchen? What does it smell like in that restaurant? Oh, they're in an Indian restaurant this time. Next time they're in an Irish restaurant. How do these places smell differently? Can you communicate that to me? Is this place a dumpy dive, or is it a really, high class ritzy place? Cloth napkins, paper napkins. How often are they filling your water glass? This is information that helps deliver what to expect from the story. Like, for instance, okay, I'm going to tell you a story right now.
Yeah.
Roommate I had. This is years ago. I was 21, 22, somewhere in the neighborhood. I'm at my art desk, and I'm working on a book. This is about the time I started working for Antarctic Press. And I was working, late nights at my day job, like working until 2 a.m. So I would stay up all night working on comics, work till about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was living with a bunch of other 21-year-old guys, no problem. So the guys would stay up, and they would all joke around while I'm sitting at the art desk. The art desk was in the kitchen of this place. And there was a standing lamp next to my desk, and one of my roommates comes over, and he's sitting on the arm of the couch, monkeying with the lamp, and he takes the light bulb out and is digging around inside of the lamp with a pencil. A mechanical pencil. And I said, hey, is that plugged in? He's like, no, it's not plugged in. Pop! And he falls down. He starts shaking and falls down. And then he got mad at me. He got mad at me because I yelled at him for scaring me. I was like, I thought you were dead, you idiot. And I probably said other words beyond that. But then he got mad at me like, hey, don't yell at me, dude. I'm like, remember I was like digging around on a plugged in lamp with a... Now, that's funny in and of itself, but now I'm going to tell it again. So there I was working at my desk in my apartment with a bunch of 21-year-old guys, and I had this one roommate who thought he was just the most macho dude in the entire world. He really liked to point out to me my physical failings compared to his physical failings, and there he was, kind of leisurely sitting on the arm of the couch, digging around in this lamp, when all of a sudden, pop! And then he trembles and falls down. It turns out he wasn't electrocuted. He was just scared by that event. It scared him as much as it scared me, and that's why he was mad at me for yelling at him. You see how the dynamic of the story changes based on what information that I give you.
Totally.
So.
And I don't know. And it doesn't always have to, let's see. Obviously, one was more factual breakdown. and then one was a bit more of the feeling of going through the events.
And deciding what was the important information to deliver there, right? What's the point of the story? In the first one, the point of the story is idiots gonna be idiots. Young guys do dumb things together. The second part of the story is this guy's braggadocio was deflated, and even though I didn't necessarily come out on top, there was a moment where his braggadocio was deflated in front of everybody else, and whether or not anybody acknowledged it, it was there. By the way, if that guy, if he's following me on Facebook and if he's watching this, you know I changed the details of that story. So that was a somewhat fictionalized version of a real thing.
As most stories involving 21-year-old guys as roommates doing Yahoo things need to probably be edited.
Anyway, yeah. So that I mean, and that leads me to my second thing here is find the big idea. What's the one point you want your audience or peers to get out of your statement? What's the big idea? What are you trying to really say here? And can you throw anything else out? This is storytelling 101. Economical storytelling means that you only put in information that supports the point. And maybe I say that as a guy who tends to be very verbose and take a long time to build a point. But I think that's something to keep your eye on.
Absolutely. It's a noble aspiration at the very least, where and it's calling back to that, well, what if you're doing this visually? I guess in this case, what would you put in the largest panel? What gets the emphasis?
Yep. Yeah, it'd be the one where he electrocutes himself. Pop. And then it would be 3 panels of him shaking and slowly falling to the floor, ending with one big borderless panel of me yelling at him and him yelling back at me.
See, for me, it would be him and in the silent moment after the pop, and he'd be quivering his lip, like just quivering there for a moment. And, you know, when the giant becomes like the little scared, you know, and then there's a reaction after that probably involves a head bonk or something.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but yeah. Anyway, fun. It's the priority and figuring out the emphasis. I mean, which another thing that I think would be a fair element. Not that I'm endorsing the idea of a lean into art drinking game, but if we call back to the design series, because this is another situation where you're finding how the elements connect to one another. So you've got a story, and it's all this stuff that's jumbled up, and you're organizing it as you're sharing it. Yeah. One way or the other, it's just streaming from you to everyone else, and you get to pick how much, when, what gets emphasized, and how you position these things with one another. So you can, you know, obviously when you practice and really write up a story, then you're getting into near stand-up kind of, you know, preparation. You don't have to do that, but you can even off the cuff think of like, okay, clearly here's what I'm going to emphasize, and skip the other stuff, get through it quickly, change your tone of voice.
Yeah. And gosh, it makes me want to skip ahead to talking about examples of people who maintain entertaining presences, because another thing is that, you know, a thing I talk about in my workshops all the time is the analytic eye. The analytic eye is the mystical third eye that you keep open on your forehead when you're watching or consuming any entertainment. And the moment you react to it, the moment you say, you have to stop and say, why? Why did it do that to me? If you don't answer it then, you jot it down on a card. You capture that thing in your handy little, what is this thing called? Right in the Rain note card carrying case, you know? Or
you phrased that so similar to Steve on Blue's Clues too, because it's your handy little notebook. I'm sorry, I'm a
little girl right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of Blue's Clues happening.
Oh my God, I am so much like I could totally see myself hosting one of those shows if I was a little bit better looking. Oh, that's creepy. Okay, it's once again we discover that it's a miracle that I'm married. But what I'm driving at here is that you capture it someplace and you mark it for follow-up, and you think about it later on until you're trained to do that all the time. And the same can be said of watching how other entertaining people operate and ask yourself, what are they doing? What is it that they're doing that makes me laugh so hard? So when we talk about, and you listed some stand-up comics, which I want to get to, um, and I think of people like Eddie Izzard, who I really enjoy. Eddie Izzard, he has this wonderful sort of way of drilling down into every, uh, sideline part of a topic, and then drilling his way back up. And if he can't drill his way back up, he'll just do a hard stop and say, "Oh yeah, so I was talking about Catholicism," Uh, John Panette, who I really enjoy because he talks about food a lot. I think food humor is really, really funny. But I look at his delivery and Jim Gaffigan's delivery. Both guys talk about food a lot. Very different styles of doing it. John Panette is very aggressive and angry about his jokes, whereas Jim Gaffigan is very kind of slow and sleepy about his jokes. And they both have different joke construction styles, right? So you had some people written down.
Oh, and yeah, it was as soon as that question, as soon as I was trying to come up with an answer to who maintains an entertaining presence, stand-up comedians are they do a lot of great things with Twitter, and because to me it's almost like they're finding ways to like a good classic political cartoon, like to really hit at some kind of issue and punch at it with all their might, but they still have some kind of something, I don't know, some other essence to them where they're not just
They're not just like saying like Henry Kissinger has weird glasses. Duh.
yeah, it's really cool, like a really thoughtful, passionate way of saying things that I know I would be and am uncomfortable saying,
Yeah.
and they make that their day-to-day habit. So people like Sarah Silverman, right? I think she's pretty darn funny in general, and also on Twitter. And in a similar way, Chris Rock. Just for them, not every single. Sometimes they tweet logistics, like they're going somewhere or whatever, right? I mean, and it's not like I follow them. What will happen is if I'll notice when people start retweeting something, and then I'll go back into their stream and just hang out for a little bit and go, oh, look, take a dip into their stream of recent tweets, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a great job of just finding exciting, fun ways to share their thoughts, which is, I think, making little stories out of them.
Yeah. Paul F. Tompkins is another one who does that. I'm putting him down for the show notes.
Of course, there's a lot of comic artists that I think do a good job with that, and I think if we actually shouted out to all of them, I don't know if we'd be able to end the show today.
Let's see who we can hit on this one, because yeah, there are a lot of people that I mean, this is like the shared circle on Google Plus, right, or the Twitter list. People, I have like some private lists that I keep of when I get in and like a little too overwhelmed with my Twitter stream. I can go, okay, well, here's like the 15 people who consistently make me happy, and I can just look in, check in on those 15 people, and often mostly it'll be like close friends or something, like people like in my personal life. It'll be mostly to say like, is everything okay in their life? Is everything? But then often it just so happens that they're also really funny or entertaining people, so it's just fun to engage or to look in on these people as well. And you and I have one of the same people on here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Casey Van Heis. I mean, I just find it. She seems to tweet the like reaction live. It's like live blogging, but just like watching TV or something. And all of a sudden, it becomes an event I'm a part of somehow. Even though I probably wouldn't get around to watching it or whatever anytime soon, but it's just funny to see Casey's reactions.
No, Casey is awesome at Twitter. She is so good at it. And I've said this many times on Twitter and off, is that she's really, really good at getting me out of hiding. She ferrets me out whether she's trying to or not by talking about something that I feel really itchy about as well. And, she gets me to criticize. You know, something I don't normally feel comfortable instigating, but she can get me started doing it. You know?
Yeah, yep. That's a huge thing. I'm so glad you pointed that out too, because she does an awesome job of doing some passionate critique, basically, and yeah, I really admire that. I think that's awesome, and that's something I want to practice at some
And
point.
she doesn't let it get personal for her at any rate, because there was a couple times where I saw her embroiled in some discussions that I was even a part of as well, where an assumption that she had at the outset is proven wrong, and she's like, "Oh, well, okay then," you know, and none of this whole, "Well, I don't like to be proven wrong in public,
Allow
so
me to invent a reason to, yeah,
no, not me," you know, that kind of thing.
yeah. No, that and yeah, that's super engaging. I mean, I would call that just another way of storytelling where it's she's got her. It's almost like a journalism style of storytelling with probably some humorous intent and also probably some analysis at the same time. It's not like there's a lot of thoughtfulness and humor there. So
Yeah.
that's a
And
cool way to
it's
tackle
not
it.
just simply like, okay, here's one. I'm gonna be timely, Rob. So Disney just bought Lucasfilm. Did you hear about this?
I know. I did not hear about that. Are you
Are you
kidding
ready
me?
for your heart to be broken? Because they're promising an episode 7 of the Star Wars series in 2015.
Wait.
Lucas is not on the job, supposedly.
So wait. So Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Yes.
Whew. They bought Marvel too.
Oh, that your pain was so entertaining in that particular moment.
Hmm. So,
I
and
mean,
here's where I'm not like. So I'm developing. I'm still working and growing as a communicator,
yeah.
and um I will pack the feeling down, and it will grow into some kind of angry tree at some point that I can then pick fruit off of and share with you. But I got
Well,
nothing right now.
that's another thing is that you think people think that you have to be like really on your toes and fast beat with this stuff, but you know what? It's okay if you need a minute to digest it. Um, but it's okay to let there be a pregnant pause or to say, you know what, I'm gonna get back to on that because I haven't quite parsed through it all yet. I need some time to really sift through this thing that makes me feel very upset. Uh,
Yeah, I feel like I got something stuck now in my chest. I don't know if that's part of the news, but the feeling wasn't there until Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Supposedly,
That's a
yeah.
sentence. That's
That's a
true.
sentence. That is a sentence that happened.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah. So who's someone else that you that you think is a really engaging?
Well, my point was is that there's an opportunity. Like, okay, so you could be the guy who says like, "Well, I guess Jar Jar and Mickey are going to be mixing up in the next movie." Blah, you know, you could form all sorts of like snide commentary of like, "Well, I guess Star Wars is going to suck even more now. Princess Leia is joining the pretty princesses, whatever." Right?
Yeah.
Uh, but Casey is one of those people who will find like an entertaining way to channel her rage about the thing.
You
So
know. The let's see. So secretly, Mustafar has a moon called Pluto. I
yeah,
don't
there
know
you go.
where all of a sudden. Yep.
What up, up, what up,
It's
what
talking
up,
dogs.
up, what
Why
up,
is one talking
wow.
dog just a dog, and why is one like a total
Mhm.
intelligent humanoid?
Yeah.
Anyway,
If your porch falls down and kills more than 3 dogs, you might be a redneck. So anyway, so we had Krishna Sadasivam on here.
yes. So now Krishna, it's like I think Krishna speaks out too once in a while, but he seems like a little more toward the conservative side, and always in that a mindset that I wanted to highlight is some, and this is oftentimes where I'm at because I feel most comfortable in this mode, is it's about finding this really useful aspect of something and celebrating that, both for yourself and others, but to possibly, be of service, right?
Mhm.
He's constantly bringing up awesome resources and whatnot. Um, if you're a Mac user or, um, cool, a lot of things related to illustration, whether it be like reference, like a cool site that had like I can't remember the name of it, but Krishna tweeted one a few weeks back that basically, I think it had a lot of eyeball reference and a couple other like just sets of photographs that would automatically, it was built to um, um, automatically rotate through images, so you would be doing speed sketching while visiting this website. Anyway, and he finds that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, he does. And yeah, and another thing he does is that he shares a whole bunch of in progress work, a whole bunch
Yeah.
of, like he has like secret places, they're not secret, but it's like, oh, here's just for my Instagram followers, and this is just for my Google Plus followers, this is just for my Facebook followers. Here's the in progress thing, and he invites feedback and he responds to the feedback. So yeah, that's very different than Casey's approach. I would say Krishna is much more reserved than Casey, yet much more effusive in different ways about like
He's
what he's
super
crazy
open
passionate
with his process too. So yeah, like you said, like just so open, willing to share like almost any stage of what he's working on. So like not hyper, not precious, basically. And he'll go back and change finished work too, and he'll make that. And so like we get to follow along with his thought process. Like he'll have an episode of PC Weenies complete, right? Theoretically complete, and then he'll be like, nope, I'm changing the punchline, or I'm changing the last two panels, and then he'll link to both.
Yep.
So
yeah, he's PC Weenies on Twitter, and he's really really great guy to follow. There's a reason he has so many followers. Another one I put on here, believe it or not, is Tony Cliff of DelilahDirk.com.
oh, cool.
Tony has this really nice balance between sharing, like, here's some neat art to look at. He shares a lot of things where it's like, oh, look at this beautiful thing I just found. And then having, like, some, like, he's Tango Charlie on Twitter, by the way. And having some very... I wouldn't call it dry wit, but it's biting wit that you can tell comes from a place where he doesn't really mean anybody any harm. He's just being funny, but he's not being funny in the teenager kind of like, oh, those people are lame.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really fun to follow, especially when he's feeling a little bit wily and jokey. So
cool.
But it's a good mix of look at the neat thing, and not even necessarily the thing that he made, but like look at this thing that's worth looking at, and then here's a few jokes about art, and his jokes are almost always about art. I can't recall him ever making like a Romney or Obama joke or anything like that.
Totally cool. I am so gonna follow him.
Plus, he's a fantastic illustrator to boot on top of everything else. But and then we didn't even get into things like I'm just figuring out Pinterest and following Jake Parker on Pinterest. Oh my God, I know you use it, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow Jake Parker on there?
I do not. I will now.
Oh, prepare to be dazzled. He finds the most amazing art. And it's like Jake Parker's opening the door to, oh, are you feeling uninspired? I'm gonna open up this magic door, and you're gonna walk into this world. You're gonna be like, oh, I want to do that, and that, and that. I'm jotting that down for the show notes.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, what are these people doing? What's the idea here? And all these people they're telling their story, and their story has a theme. The theme is their aboutness. Their aboutness is what is it that drives them crazy? What's the thing that drives them nuts that they're really, really interested in? And then just sharing that unapologetically.
Yeah, and that's fun to see because and the more people I find that I surround myself in that way, whether it's socially, heck, day-to-day life, as far as which which clients I get more excited about, which people I want to hang out with, which and on the social networks and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty neat how many different ways you can learn this and can try it out. And I know I went through so many phases as far as the whole, I don't know, probably still going through some kind of phase, but with the, how do I do exactly what we've been talking about in this episode? And it's
That the hacker ethos, Rob, the hacker ethos. You dive in, you do what you think is best, and you iterate, and you self-assess.
Yeah, still iterating.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but no,
That's not a
I
bad.
mean,
That's not a bad epitaph, actually. Still iterating. Just decomposing. I don't know. All right.
yeah, and I'll take the sissy epitaph and say, he tried. Remember me as a friar. Remember me as a guy who put his back into it.
See, when you phrase it like that, see, okay, all right. If that were the epitaph, most people would put a different voice behind that. Remember me as someone who put their back into it, right?
He put his back into it.
Versus I think you would have to have a recording there for people to get that out of the epitaph.
Like the Bender statue on that Egyptian planet. Remember me, but with my wiener voice coming out, going, "He gave it his best shot." Oh,
yep.
Or my obnoxious radio voice, which I won't do again. So I think speaking of epitaphs, I think that we got around that one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I need to do for this next episode is put together a Twitter list of people, like the Lean Into Art list of people who are dynamic individuals that are worth following upon completing this episode, right?
Okay. That sounds awesome. I would bet, yeah, I may have some, I will have some for that list, but also I bet I will have some that I would be able to get from that as well.
Yeah, so before this episode goes live, Rob and I will compile a list of these people. And if you don't use Twitter, but if you use one of the other networks, I'll put together a Google Plus list based on this and a Pinterest list based on this as well. So that'll be a resource in the links at leanintoart.com.
Interesting.
So let's quickly get out of here with some takeaways. What do you say?
I'm all for it.
Okay. Maybe this is a little bit too buoyant for takeaways. I mean, shouldn't takeaways be like reflective, introspective, pensive? Bruce Banner walking away from the town.
Oh yeah, I mean they're takeaways as in like, well, I just packed up for this is what I'm carrying with me on my next mission, right?
Nice spin.
That's because I work in marketing now. Yep. So,
yeah.
Jersey, I thought, Lisa, you mentioned you teased the takeaway in the beginning, didn't you? I think, were you? No?
Did I? I don't remember anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, I know we wanted to talk about this thing a couple episodes back. I hinted at this thing that was bothering me about that TV show, The Voice. People are gonna be, maybe he's joining the show now. I was like, what? Where did this come from? But it was. This comes back to storytelling, and the thing about this show, The Voice, which is on broadcast television, is at its core, it is kind of an exciting thing, but they feel like they have to amp up the excitement on the show by building these narratives around the people who are competing. The premise is that you are singing in competition against other singers, and these four judges get to decide whether or not you get to progress on through the competition. This isn't anything as simple and straightforward as the Karate Kid kind of tournament where hit the other guy 3 times, you win and get to advance. This is something where it's like, oh, you're a little pitchy, or oh, you weren't doing your runs quite right, nah, you were off tempo. Anyway, that whole bit of arbitrary stuff really bothers me.
What?
What?
I'm sorry. Some of that didn't sound like arbitrary. It's just, do you think it was that they weren't maybe being strict about their critique? Maybe kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, well, see, here's where I always get into problems with this whole art critique thing is that, like, what if their sense of being off-tempo is part of the style that actually makes it work for a wider audience? And who is this group of 4 people to judge that and keep it from the world, quote unquote, you know? Because that's where we get into this whole, logical or bad premises. And I want to jump to that rather than we'll forego the whole art critiquing thing for another time.
Okay.
But one of the things they do with all these contestants is every contestant has a terrible, painful past where something bad happened to them once. Like, oh, somebody took the trash out on Tuesday and it wasn't picked up till Wednesday, and I'm so upset about it. That's why I sing. And some of the people have like real problems in their past. But like, there was like some cases where this one guy, and this is where I got mad, is this one guy works in what are those places where you do emissions checks? You bring in the car in, then you rev the wheels, and they test the emissions.
Probably like a local DMV garage kind of thing.
There you go. That kind of thing. And this guy is talking about how this is his job and this was his dad's job. And if he doesn't win on The Voice, he's going to have to go back to doing that. And his kids are going to have to go back to doing that. And it's going to be generations of people working at the DMV dying from carbon monoxide. And I'm like, dude, I know we're in a depressed economy right now, but you don't have to do that job. There's other opportunities there for you, and don't make it look like you are in indentured serfdom in the United States of America. I know you're trying to raise the drama and everything, but there's other opportunities out there. There's even other opportunities for you to sing. This isn't your only opportunity. But then every contestant, when they're showing them walking onto the stage, getting ready to do their thing, they always play this voiceover of them like, it's now or never, it's make it or break it, it's do or die, it's now or never, I'm crossing the Rubicon, this is the threshold, this is the point of no return. I'm losing track of any other euphemisms people use for this whole.
I'm all out of shoelaces.
Yeah. No ice cream for me tonight. But so I'm both frustrated and delighted by this completely phony thing that they put together.
Sounds conflicting.
Yes. A lot of cognitive dissonance going on when I'm watching that show.
Yeah, it's weird. It does sound a little bit dystopian, a little bit climbing for dollars, but not quite physical torment as the stakes or the risk. So what's frustrating about it is it just doesn't seem genuine with the kind of scarcity they're expressing. It's like, oh, this person. Do you even believe that they believe it?
No, I don't.
Yeah, okay. That can be a little bit extra distasteful sprinkle on top.
I want to be fair. Maybe some of them do, but it's for the most part it feels very.
Well, that can be the editing and the storytelling on top of it too, where you're maybe not clearly getting to know that person, obviously. But so what? Yeah, I mean, I find that I don't know what this. Yeah, I don't know where to go with it without just sounding.
I brought this up before, and you got riled up, and you looked up something on Wikipedia just before we started, or the definition of what was it that you looked up?
Well, okay. I think this is a fantastic resource for a lot of purposes, both for like if you're trying to think about arguments for and against something, or if you're trying to think about. Okay, so that person going on stage, and you're like, well, boy, I really don't agree with them. They don't, what they're seeing is, if they really see this situation as being so make or break, they're kind of, they're on the wrong page. How do you describe that? And I think Wikipedia has two really fun resources that I find wonderful for these situations. And I would bring up the Wikipedia list of fallacies page and the Wikipedia list of biases in judgment and decision-making page. And I delight at that phrase because it's so a bias in judgment and decision-making. I don't think we can get away without having biases, right? But I think it's funny or fun to characterize them and try to make a resource out of them. Like if you're trying to describe, like, well, why would one character really have a tough time with another character in the story, right? Or in this case, why am I so frustrated with this, what I'm characterizing as an error in judgment of this person in, on The Voice, right? So. Let's say, I would think of words like, for me, when I hear that, I think scarcity. So I'll do a Control F on the page to search. Scarcity. No. Um, let's see, rare. So I'll do some synonym searches and whatnot, and try to find like, well, which one of these biases comes up, and then end up with uh, do. It may take a little while to find one. The framing effect. Um, drawing different conclusions from the same information depending on how or by whom the information is presented. So perhaps this person has been a little bit like when you watch a training video when you start working at a fine institution like Burger King or whatnot, and they may make claims or present the information as if it were more truthful and emphatic and universally applicable than it really is, right? As in, like, Burger King is the best place to work ever and all that kind of stuff, and anyway, but they're framing it. They're trying to get you to see it from their perspective. So I wouldn't doubt it. Like, what if someone's backstage going like, "Oh yeah, they're coaching him into a corner."
Well, no, this goes back to something we talked about in an earlier episode when I was doing the Ignatz Awards, and people all day long were coming to me going, "Are you nervous? Are you nervous? How you doing? I bet you're nervous, huh?" You know, even that kind of thing can be like, "Hey, and now I am. Thank you." You know.
Ooh, here's another fun one, which could have to do with it. The gambler's fallacy is the tendency to think that future probabilities are altered by past events, where in reality they're unchanged. So results from an erroneous conceptualization and when you're specifically talking about gambling, is people can start to see patterns that aren't really there, right? So that person's seeing patterns that are like, oh, okay, well, maybe their dad really did work at the same establishment. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and therefore, because he did, that increases the chances that I'm going to as well.
Yeah, so it's a fun and even to try them on like little hats, like to pick the different things from the list. It's fun. It's a fun list of.
I would
of
argue
quirks.
this is also a way to try on different characters' points of view.
Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. Like, why would this person see this as a good idea?
Yeah.
Super helpful to shift perspective. And I get so as far as my big intense reaction that seems all mellowed out now, it's because I don't know, I don't hold on to that stuff for very long, so now I'm calm about it. But there's sort of a lot of just myths surrounding myths surrounding creativity, and especially when you get into that situation where you have I don't know, a large entity working with an independent person, that it's like, this is a big chance and what have you. Maybe that independent person can show their talents to a different entity and strike a better deal, right?
Right.
But of course, yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of a lot of myths surrounding a lot of creative paths. And I recorded a Polytechnicast that I haven't published on this, but
going back to this whole idea about not sharing.
Anyway,
roadblocks to sharing. Heard of that one?
I'll just smile quietly.
I'm totally guilty of the same thing. I mean, that's another thing, is like, there's a fine line between being the guy or gal who learns something through the school of hard knocks and then yells at everybody else to learn from their mistake, and being the person who is continually struggling with a thing and saying, yeah, this is really hard. Let's talk about it a little bit, because if it's hard for me, it's probably hard for other people too. So yeah, this is something I struggle with as well. That's why we get so fired up about it, and that's why a lot of our episodes have revolved around this topic, but I think not as specifically about pointing at our storytelling chops as being the whole tool bag that we need in order to be more engaging in public. So I'll write this down. So one more thing, and this is not takeaway stuff, but one more thing I forgot to throw in here is something that we both tried to do, is Ignite Talks. I think that's another great.
One of us did it though.
Yeah, but
The other one, yeah.
I've since submitted an idea to an Ignite group who went, not really. So
Yeah.
I'm not batting 1,000 on that one, but yeah, Ignite talks are a great way to box yourself into a situation where you got to find the point of your story, and now. You've only got 5 minutes, 25 slides. Slides change every 15 seconds. You don't get the luxury of being able to, let me advance to my next slide now with my next point. Oh, I'm going to run long on this one because, I really have to set the stage. Nope. You get 15 seconds. It's a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's like essentially a creative challenge. A creative challenge that just addresses a really specific need. If you're like, well, okay, I need to get comfortable doing that sort of thing. And yeah, and what's cool is like it's actually a very staged challenge because it's not like you wake up one day and go, I'll do an Ignite talk, and then boom, you're on stage. You actually have to kind of chip away at it and sell the talk and all that. And each one of these stages is a helpful it's a helpful exercise to practice that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and they have them all over the place. So there's odds are you can get involved with one, and I think it's even some of my friends did it. Some of my local friends participated in the latest one in Ann Arbor, and some of these guys I would define as the coolest of cucumbers. These guys are they are unflappable, and I walked up to some of them before their talk at the latest Ignite, and I could see them sweating it out. They're really freaking out about it. And I did this thing where I pulled them in tight, and I was like, "You beat the crap out of that talk, man!" Trying to get them pumped up about it.
Yeah.
But it didn't help. They were just like, But
I don't know how to respond. I can only respond in slides.
Well, that's the cool thing about the talk is that, yeah, it is really, really scary, and it is a huge challenge to try to make a point that's entertaining and interesting in such a short amount of time. And it's another one of those things where if you take on that creative challenge, you walk away not unchanged. So that's another thing I think people should get involved in, or public readings of your work, and so on. But okay, we got to get out of here because we're already over an hour and a half, and I don't trust Google Plus to behave properly after an hour and a half after the last couple times. Yeah. So. Hey, you know what, Rob? I think that this was a fun discussion, and if the Leaners thought it was a fun discussion and interesting and useful, a great way you can let us know and thank us for putting on this show every week and also get something out of it is to go to leanintoart.com/workshops. We're holding the season of creative challenges right now, where almost all of our workshops are $10 per unit. In other words, it's about an hour's worth of workshop content for $10. In the case of Christian Sadasiev's creating crazy characters, or my comics fundamentals courses, which are multi-session, 4 hours, it's $40 for those. But every purchase, let's say you go ahead and you get Kim Holmes' digitally organic art, which is a great workshop where you'll learn how to make digital artwork look like it was done on paper. Comes with a whole bunch of free resources, downloads that you can start using that day to start putting Kim's techniques into practice. You buy that, $10, and then you know what you get? You get 12 hours of free extra content by way of the Creative Topics Variety Pack, featuring 4 labs. Rob, is that right? 4 labs, 6 labs? I don't know what's in there.
Oh yeah, 6 labs, I think. Yep.
You did an art automation talk in there.
Yeah, I did. So. Yeah, I mean, one of the talks, the labs. It's a variety pack, right? And we ended up having time to both look at some of the things that the students that were present in the lab that they were working on, right? But for the most part, the main chunk of it is always there's a topic, and we've got anything from art automation, which I delve into tools like Sakuli, if you've heard of it. And you're curious about getting some firsthand, being able to witness some things like a screencast and someone putting together some things in Sakuli, it's a good resource. And during this episode we referred to the character exercise driven one that where you're coming up with a cast of characters that have strong emotional resonance. And Jersey had a really awesome exercise that we walk through that, and I think create a really fun story. And you get to experience not only this exercise, which I think is a great takeaway, but also see what would be a very fun story take shape during the course of the workshop.
Yep. And that's at leanintoart.com/workshops. You can get it for yourself, or you can gift it to a friend. This would make a great holiday gift for somebody that you're getting some art supplies for, a young person in your life. You're saying, hey, here's a Wacom bamboo tablet. You can get started on your art career, and here's 13 hours worth of video content that only you can have with forum access to the site, so you can do follow-up sessions with the Lean Into Art instructors, follow up with us, and we can respond to you. And
And I got one more to mention, because we are just a day away, 2 days away from a really an event that is part of the inspiration of the season of Creative Challenges, 30 Characters in 30 Days, right? Which is hosted by Tyler James at 30characters.com. Now, he actually put on a workshop that is all about helping people through that experience and generate those character ideas. We have multiple workshops that tackle this topic as well, but Tyler has a standalone one that's only $10 during the sale called Creating Compelling Characters.
Yep.
And just a great time to mention that one, because 30 Characters in 30 Days is about to begin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It starts November 1st. And Tyler's workshops are always great.
He packs a ton of value in there.
Yeah, he does. He really does. So that'd be a great assistance for you in taking on the creative challenges this winter, like NaNoWriMo, 30 Characters in 30 Days, and so on. That's at leanintoart.com/workshops. But let's say you don't want to spend any money right now, but you still want to say, hey, Jersey Rob, great job. You can go to iTunes and give us a star review. It's anonymous. It's fast. Just choose how many stars that you think the show deserves. And thank you to the folks who have been giving us star reviews. That helps raise our visibility on iTunes, the #1 place people look for podcasts, and it helps more people like you find this show. Or you can give the show a thumbs up on YouTube. For those of you guys who are watching the show on YouTube, give the show this particular episode a thumbs up. That helps raise our visibility as well. And thank you very much to the folks who have been doing this. And
yes, thank you very much.
With that, I think we can go now, Rob. So
I think so, Jersey. We made a noble attempt at keeping this one to an hour, but our topic runneth over.
Yeah, it really does. We get into it. So,
yep.
Hey, we will be back Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, 9:15-ish p.m. Eastern Time. We send out a notification on Twitter and Google Plus just before we start with the YouTube link, and you can participate on YouTube. You can follow along on Twitter with a hashtag, and you can also follow along on the Google Plus feed. All the information is on the website, leanintoart.com. But just remember, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to play along. And we might have a guest again next week. We'll see. But that's all the tease that I will make this time.
All right.
So, Rob, thank you again.
Thank you, Jersey. It's been fun. I love the new structure to our episodes. Love the old ones. Kind of miss it sometimes, but this rocks.
Well, cool. Well, maybe we can do a looser format for a future episode with one of those emergent topics, which we haven't done in forever.
No, nice. Save it. Save it up.
Yeah.
Sounds
okay.
Good.
Well, until next time, everybody, I have been Jersey Drozd of ComicsAreGreat.com and Jersey on Twitter.
And I've been Rob Stenzinger of Interactive-Storyteller.com and Rob Stenzinger on Twitter.
And this is where I say... Oh, goodness, I forgot the custom overlay. Where is the custom overlay? This is where we would fix it in post if we could. Here it comes. And then I say, as I always do at the end of every episode, okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart. And you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.
Now, why did the title card not pop up? I turned it on.
I always like looking at the disembodied presence of my own voice.
Now the title card pops up.
Title card. Where's that rake? I set that rake somewhere. Thwap.
Yeah, it really was. And I just shut it off. So, anyway, all right, I'm going to end the
Okay.
broadcast. So, thank you everybody in the chat for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
And
thank you very much.
and we'll see you guys next week. Oh, anybody who's interested, tomorrow at noon or 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're doing Comics Are Great special Halloween episode with John David
Sweet.
Vieira of NightmareProWrestling.com and David Carter of the U of M Comics Library. So,
That sounds awesome. If I weren't at my day job, I'd still be there.
yeah, I know. That's a bummer. But now, why is that popping up again, for crying out loud?
The guy, it's now it's the ghost in the machine.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, see, Hangout starts acting funny after an hour and a half. It's really
Yep.
weird. So, okay. Well, thank you, Rob. Let's end the broadcast. Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Bye.
Bye. That's right. I can't end the broadcast.